We've been exploring wargaming-based mechanics. This idea, independent of system, independent of army, elements, armada, whatever you're playing, there are certain core mechanics of a war game that we want to understand. We want to be aware of. Can we understand some of these mechanics through this vlog, through the next couple of vlogs? The focus for today's vlogs, we're literally, with a couple of tweaks to your army, next game you go and win and dominate. That's what we're going to explore in today's posts and try to give you the tools and try to give you the tech to do that. So in a dice-based game, we have war games that are dice-based. Warhammer 40K, buckets and buckets of dice that you're rolling. You have some games that are card-based, that work just through cards, Wings of Glory. And then you have some games that are kind of a hybrid of the two. Perfect example, pulling from systems that I play, God Tier. You have cards for each warband of the powers that they can use, and you have an economy, and you have to come up with combos and figure out what you got to do. But then you have dice that implement it, hits and effects. So from that perspective, we're looking at a dice-based system, either a hybrid system or a pure dice-based system, something like Warhammer or something like God Tier. Building dice pools is what it's about. How can you in your system roll the maximum amount of dice? That's how things happen, right? A lot of systems, you have a unit, it generates a number of attacks, could be shooting attacks, could be close combat attacks, could be magic attacks, could be whatever attack. It has a certain number of dice that it makes its attack with because that reflects the power, the efficiency of that unit. You roll the dice, you need to hit, you need to cause damage. Maybe there's some armor saves or things absorbed. The dice pool gets smaller and smaller till eventually it's like, look, I caused 5 points of damage to your tank, or I killed 5 infantry, or I did 3 kills and 2 shock, depending on the system. So in order to have some sort of effect at the end, and that effect is removing your opponent's models or elements, you need the largest volume of dice. So how do you generate those large pools of dice? What units do you have that can generate large pools of dice? Learn to combine 2 units together. So if I'm going to attack one unit and I have one unit, that's one set of dice pool. But if I have 2 units next to each other and they're both attacking the same unit, even though I'm not going to roll at the same time, for this phase, it's a bigger dice pool that I'm utilizing. If you have small dice pools, it's never going to happen. Or you're going to have to get really, really, really lucky. Absolutely lucky. Building a big, big dice pool. The second aspect is manipulating the dice pool, being able to manipulate it. We're going to explore that a little bit later in part 2.